Thank you very much, Ms. McMillan. Mr. Larry Davis, followed by Steve Shannon and Nancy Broyles. Mr. Davis.
Thank you for allowing me to speak to the committee. I'm Larry Davis. I'm just a tax-paying citizen of Kentucky. But there's a number of expectations when government accepts tax dollars from the citizens it serves. One of them is good roads, good health care for the indigent, good fire protection, child protection, law enforcement, other things. It's just good infrastructure that's needed out there. In my lifetime, I've never heard a governor or legislature ever say we had enough money to fund everything. But some decisions need to be made as to what those particular programs that's needed out there, how they're to be funded, and as you deal with tax reform, those need to be taken in consideration. Usually epidemics occur about every 20 to 30 years. In 1919, we had the flu epidemic that killed thousands of people in the nation. In the 40s, we had the Great White Plague, tuberculosis, that either killed thousands of people or debilitated thousands more. In the 60s, we had the swine flu epidemic. In the 80s, we had the AIDS and HIV. And in the 2000s, we had the bird flu, which public health was able to stop it from coming out there. But the point I'm trying to make, an epidemic occurs about every 20 to 30 years. As you keep taking money from those programs, there won't be enough trained professionals, public health professionals out there to take care of the next disaster. We're already looking at a crisis of obesity out there now. That obesity alone causes many other health problems, hypertension, diabetes, lots of other problems out there now. Those problems are going to just continue to get worse and worse and worse, and state dollars are going to end up funding them. So the public health system over since the 1990s have been asked to bail out Medicaid program at least 3 times that I can remember, and yet none of those dollars have ever, as public health system bailed them out, those dollars have not come back and been replaced in public health. There's been over $28 million that have been pulled out during that period of time, probably much more by now. But as it keeps being taken out with no replacement out there, then you've got less and less people have been trained in public health, and you're actually, public health system is in jeopardy of actually providing those mandated programs that the state legislature required. As a nation, at the last report I saw, the United States was like 17th in the world. There are counties in Kentucky that are 120th in Kentucky, and Kentucky's 48th in the nation. So, we're pretty bad off when you look at that side of it, and you're dealing with economic ability to be able to provide for your economics to grow and do the other things. So I think you've got to have health care, you've got to have mental health, you've got to have social services, you've got to have those support programs out there, and whatever it takes in terms of being able in tax reform to set money aside for those programs is the only way it's ever going to get accomplished. So I think the short-sightedness of people making decisions about today and not thinking about the future is going to create major issues in the future. So please take time to think about those issues and the future and deal with the future of today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Steve Shannon, followed by Nancy Broyles and Sheena Murphy.
Good evening. Good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight. I am Steve Shannon. I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Community Mental Health Centers. There's 14 in the state. I'm going to be brief history. We were established in 1966 in statute. We are the behavioral health public safety net for the Commonwealth. We served over 179,000 people, fiscal year 11. 1 in 25 Kentuckians access services. Again, 1 in 25 Kentuckians access services at a mental health center. Room probably has 200 people tonight. 8 of those would access services. We also employ 9,000 people, administrative positions, clinical positions, and medical positions. All those folks are taxpayers as well. We have 300 voluntary board members committing their time to the 14 regions. We provide community support through services, through employment and leadership. We are in the business of manufacturing opportunities for the people we serve. I'm going to talk about adequacy tonight. And the key principle in adequacy listed here is critical state services. The community mental health centers believe community mental health center services are critical state services to make sure those individuals that we serve and support continue to have access to those services. First 5 years, from 2001 to 2006, we served about 4.6% more people each fiscal year. Last 5 years, we served 1.1% more people each fiscal year. I'd like to tell you we're meeting the demand. We served 1.1 because that was the number needing services. Unfortunately, 4.6 wasn't the number needing services. We served 135,000 in 2001, about 180,000 in 2011, 179. If we continued at 4.6%, we would have served 214,000 people last fiscal year. Let's talk about those 34,000 people that didn't access services. What did those 34,000 people do? Did they sit at home patiently waiting for a phone call? Say, today's your day. Come on in. You're going to access a clinician. You're going to see a psychiatrist. You're going to go to day program. Unfortunately, no. These 34,000 people that we don't get to serve will access services. They will go somewhere. They will spend their day somewhere doing something. And how will they spend that day? One, probably spend it alone. May spend it fighting with families, okay? May spend it experiencing really, really hard times. They'll be in jail. They'll go to hospital emergency rooms. Kids won't be in school. They'll be in alternative schools. Some folks will be homeless. Some will be in shelters. Others will be contemplating suicide, and worse, some might actually commit suicide because they can't access services that we are unable to provide because of the inadequate of the tax system today. The inadequacy displayed in 2 primary ways for the mental health centers. One, our state general fund appropriation has remained unchanged for 14 years. Unchanged. Actually, it's kind of embarrassing. We can't tell you the last time it was increased, Chairman Leeper. We don't remember when that was, but we're sure it wasn't since 1998. 14 years but unchanged. In the decade of 2000 to 2009, inflation was about 28% cumulative. We have the same dollar amount for those services. Our Medicaid rates, our second source of dollars, we have the same rate today as we had July 1 of 2001. The same dollar amount. Take both of those things for inflation, we're providing services with significant less dollars. And again, those people may not be seen, but they don't disappear. They end up in other service systems. And that's our real concern. So our challenge to you is an adequate system to make sure those critical services are met. When the community mental health centers were established in 1963, October 31st, 1963, President Kennedy signed the act creating them, perhaps his last piece of legislation he signed. He said at that time, and I want to read it so I don't get it wrong. There are risks and costs to action, but they are far less than the long-range risks of comfortable inaction. Tonight, I respectfully ask you, on behalf of the CMHCs, to make yourselves uncomfortable. Make yourselves uncomfortable and act to establish a tax code for the Commonwealth that ensures everyone the opportunity to live productive lives without fear of institutionalization, fear of abuse, fear of neglect, in a safe community where employment, yes, a job, is the outcome for all. And the irony of our system, as we enable people to go to work, they address the inadequacy of the tax system. One of the great days I have is when a client complains to me about paying taxes, because we've accomplished a goal for that person, and our goal is to get people to work. But flat funding for over a decade and a half, frozen rates, we can't accomplish that. I've submitted my comments, and you have those in more detail there, but that's really the main theme I wanted to share. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shannon. Nancy Broyles, and then Sheena Murphy and Jessica Carlson.
Hello, my name is Nancy Broyles. I'm also a classroom teacher here at Paducah Tillman, and I have been teaching for 15 years. Part of that has been in the public sector, part of that's been in the private sector. Here at Tillman, I worry about my kids. I know that some of them are making it on their own. I know that some of them are homeless. I know that for some of them, I am the only smiling face they may see. And it breaks my heart every night. I try and take care of them. I try and give them the classroom experience where they can learn. But that's difficult when I don't have enough textbooks for each of them. And it's difficult when I can't get them to come to after-school services because they have a job, because they have to support their children. It's really hard when I see those kids worrying about their own children in preschool, or if there will be a preschool for them. Those are some of the things that we have to worry about getting cut. We're very fortunate in the Paducah school systems because so far, because of our superintendents and Board of Education's fine fiscal management, we haven't had to cut those services yet. We may still. But textbooks, we keep what we've got and hope we can make do with that. We get new textbooks, but we only order what we have to have. Professional development, we try and keep down to a minimum. We don't go to many places because we need to use that money for the kids. And as for raises, well, it's been 4 years since we've had a raise. That also means that it's been 4 years since you've seen an increase in my taxes. I'm the only breadwinner in my family. My husband's been unemployed for 5 months now. I have a daughter who's in public schools. I know what I'm facing. And it's hard. But I know what it is for my kids, too. And it's harder on them. So, yeah, I go out and I buy notebooks for my kids. And I buy pencils for my kids. And I buy those things that they need. Because if I don't, who's going to? And Mr. Abramson, we didn't do so well this last 4 years. because it's been 4 years that we've still seen cuts, and we've been having to make do with what we've saved up. It's time to give us enough money that we can do our jobs properly.
Thank you, Ms. Broyles. Sheena Murphy? Sheena Murphy, followed by Jessica Carlson and Mary Potter.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Sheena Murphy, and I live here in Paducah. I'm a person diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. I'm not supposed to be able to do the things I do. I've been appointed to Governor Beshear's Medical Assistance Council, and I serve on the board of directors of Four Rivers Behavioral Health. I also consult with various agencies on mental health issues. I had my first psychotic break in April of 1995 at the age of 36. At that time, I was an upper middle class self-employed wedding cake designer, very active in my community and well insured. In the space of 3 years, I lost my business. My husband of 18 years divorced me, leaving me with no insurance. Both my parents had passed away, and my 2 siblings disowned me. I moved 6 times in 2 years and was homeless at times. I was intermittently hospitalized or jailed, usually for disorderly conduct, as I would have hallucinations, but I was never violent. I eventually found myself behind a dumpster in St. Louis, hiding from the CIA. I could not pull myself up by my bootstraps because I had lost my boots. In the course of my illness, I was put on 17 different older, cheaper medications and had 12 electroconvulsive therapy treatments, all of which were unsuccessful. In 2001, following yet another involuntary hospitalization, a judge, whom I never met, ordered temporary guardianship of me pending a competency hearing. My state guardian, whom I never met, placed me in a personal care home. And for those of you who don't know, that's basically a nursing home for young people. In the interim, I started attending a day program run by the Four Rivers Behavioral Health Center here in Paducah, which was the beginning of getting my life back. Properly medicated on a newer medication, I passed my competency evaluation. I learned how to manage my illness, and with community supports, I was able to regain my life. My point is, anyone, anywhere, at any time can be stricken with a mental illness. 1 in 5 will be. You or someone you love. And if you're not poor when it begins, you will be eventually. Without comprehensive wraparound services and community supports I received from my community mental health center, I would have ended up sedated into oblivion and warehoused, which is not treatment. Community mental health centers have been flat funded for 14 years. Currently, there are over 6,000 personal care home beds in the Commonwealth, the majority of which are filled with persons with mental illnesses, most on outdated medication, receiving no therapy or day programs, at the cost to the state of over $1,200 per month per resident for room and board only. I have received training from and am an instructor for the Kentucky Peer Specialist Program. Over 150 people like me have been certified to work with others with similar diagnoses, but the mental health centers do not have the money to hire them. This program has been proven not only beneficial, but cost-effective in other states. Kentucky ranks 48th in the nation for mental health care. We've been told that Medicaid had to go under managed care because there was not enough money. Since it started last November, managed care has created a lot of problems. It has been confusing and has made it much, much harder for people to get their medications and the other treatments they need. Older, cheaper medications lead to the revolving door of homelessness, jail, hospitalization, and personal care homes, which is in the long run the most expensive option and substandard at best. We need to seriously look at not only the amount of money, but what it's spent on. I know that treatment works, but treatment only works if it is available to people like me. Ladies and gentlemen, there has to be sufficient revenue from taxes to make mental health treatment available, to make it a priority in Kentucky. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Jessica Carlson, followed by Mary Potter and Ron Hughes. Jessica Carlson.
My name is Jessica Carlson, and I'm a senior tax analyst for CSI. First off, let me thank you for having us here today to voice our comments, and a special thanks to Mr. Williams. My speech is in written form, and I just wanted to make sure that I convey my entire message to you. It's organized in 3 different sections: where we are today, where we would like to be, and how we're going to get there. There was a time when the tax code as written served Kentucky and its citizens well. It was common for business customers' base to be geographically centralized around the business. While this is still the case for some businesses located in Kentucky, there are many businesses that have grown significantly thanks to the evolution of commerce. The internet and electronic commerce have further broken down these geographical barriers and have allowed business to connect and form strong relationships with customers outside of the Commonwealth. CSI and its subsidiaries are an example of a group of businesses that have capitalized on this new business world. It's no longer safe to assume that a business within Kentucky consumes most of Kentucky's resources and should pay the most tax, while others without significant presence do not need to shoulder as much burden. CSI's customer base is spread throughout the nation. Our sales in Kentucky only account for approximately 20% of our sales overall. CSI employs over 300 people in Kentucky, which accounts for approximately 30% of our workforce. CSI has invested millions of dollars in infrastructure in Kentucky. These components have come to be detrimental to CSI under the current apportionment rules in Kentucky. Our attempt to add to the economic footprint in Kentucky has driven up our taxable income in the state. Those businesses that have not contributed as significantly to Kentucky and sell throughout the Kentucky citizen base are being rewarded. The current state of the tax code does not attract businesses to set up within the state. It must be changed to reward those businesses domiciled in the Commonwealth who spur economic growth and attract those who are looking to do so. The Ohio River border connects Kentucky to Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, all states that currently have tax structures which use sales as a basis for generating revenue from business. These states have provided a level playing field for both foreign and domestic businesses in terms of corporate taxation, while one could argue that their current income tax rates overall may be higher, the method in arriving at taxable income does not penalize or reward. Now, where we'd like to go. Like many businesses, CSI would like to see change of the current tax code that would result in a more level playing field among businesses. We would like to see Kentucky become progressive in its approach to attracting new business into the Commonwealth. We believe Kentucky can become a major player in attracting businesses and can be seen as a leader in tax reform to create equitable positions for all who do business in Kentucky. How do we get there? Like many states that have evolved their tax codes to create equality among taxpayers. As previously mentioned, our neighbors along the Ohio River border are prime examples. For instance, Illinois apportions income based upon sales. As briefly touched upon, it is our belief that a single-factor apportionment method would be a better reflection of business conducted within the state, and would not penalize a business for creating jobs, which would help the local economy in addition to the tax base via individual income tax. To be fair, Illinois also charges what they refer to as net replacement tax, which is the equivalent to personal property tax. These combined rates lead to a rate of 9.5% for a period in time and then drop to 7.75% beginning in 2015. We understand that this is higher than the Kentucky rate. However, consider the manpower that state and local government could devote elsewhere by not having to collect real estate or property tax. Yes, this type of revision to the code would come with challenges for local government. However, it could be attractive to national businesses looking to set up operations and create jobs, as income would be a portion based on sales, not infrastructure and manpower. If sales-only apportionment were adopted by the Commonwealth, CSI would have saved approximately $198,000, reducing our tax to the Commonwealth by 29%, based on numbers for our fiscal year ended in February 2011. Ohio revamped its tax code in 2005, gradually adopted what is known as a commercial activity tax, or CAT tax. During this gradual change, the tangible personal property tax and franchise tax were phased out, and individual income tax rates were slashed by 21% during the 5-year adoption process, during the same period that the tax cat was being phased in. The CAT tax is a tax charged on receipts earned in Ohio, computed at a flat rate of 0.26%. Each corporation is granted a $1 million exemption per year. Beginning with tax year 2010, the tax cut has been fully phased in. The beauty of this tax structure is that it does not have numerous exclusions. There are no additional adjustments upward or downward, and it does not matter if there is net income or net loss. It is simply a tax owed on receipts over $1 million at the same rate for all taxpayers. Please note that each taxpayer also pays a minimum tax each year of $150. To demonstrate the effect of this tax, CSI would saved over $600,000 and paid 87% less tax than the Commonwealth were to adopt the exact structure using our fiscal year 2011 amounts earned. A wise man brought to our attention that while some businesses will save, many will be subject to tax at greater levels than pay under the current tax structure. We're sympathetic to this situation, especially for businesses that run a slim profit margin. However, with the 1 million gross receipts exemption, many small businesses will not pay tax at a corporate level. In conclusion, we encourage the committee to consider all options in order to level the playing field among businesses, create a tax code that attracts and rewards businesses for investing in infrastructure and employees, leading to increased economic growth, and finally, creating a simplified tax code for ease of operating within Kentucky. Thank you for creating this short forum to share our ideas and suggestions.